Okay, welcome everyone to I Exceed Parent Network. You know, we're having a fun time here where mothers discussing different issues around helping your children and family to exceed in employment, education and enterprise. We're doing a parent table talk, and our topic today is we're looking at mothers in business. How do mothers cope? For those who want to start up, giving some ideas of how you can juggle the family and juggle business at the same time. We're very passionate. We all have businesses and we all think it's important and gives a sense of freedom for a woman to have a business. And so we're encouraging women to start businesses. But we know that, you know, there's so many different things pulling, being a wife, being a mother, family. And so we just really wanted to discuss today, it's Entrepreneur Week, how each of us manage, how we got over issues and what we're doing really. So we'll start off with you, Nova. What are you doing? And yeah, just tell us more about it and what you got into.
I am known as the relationship change catalyst and chief wise wife because I run a blog and online courses under the name of The Wise Wife, and it's all about empowering wives and helping those who feel unfulfilled in some way. So it might be that you feel frustrated, lonely, or just not having a good time in your relationship, or as good a time as you would like to. Really helping them to start creating that relationship where they go from wishing to having that wonderfully fulfilled life. And I do it while being a wife and a mom of 3 children, a 15-year-old, 2-year-old and 1-year-old. So I'm literally, well, some time ago I used to be breastfeeding in one hand and typing in the other one, which is the God's honest truth. So, but it can be done. The thing is, a lot of times I believe that many women are doing business, but they offer the service for free. So they don't realize that they have so much within them that people want, because they take it for granted that because somebody just asks you a question or a few people ask you a question, that's just to keep giving away information. And there are many people who would pay them for it. And it's because of my relationship and people asking me for advice, that's when I realized, you know what, I have something to give. So I started educating myself more. So I spent more than enough on studying and making sure that what I give people is not just theory or practical, but a combination of both.
Now that's interesting. I mean, have you guys got any questions for Nova at all in terms of what you want to ask her about her business, family, and stuff like that?
I'll let her do, because I know most of what Nova's doing.
Yeah, Shami knows everything. Yeah.
Ah, so you're the lady to come to class.
Yeah.
I won't tell you anything at a price.
No, I'm just going to ask, what really prompted you to start the business, despite realizing you're going to be, you know, a mom of 2, full-time, probably housewife at home as well. What kind of gave you that energy to be able to cope with all that?
Well, it's a combination of stuff. One, because of the experience that I had. I came out of an abusive relationship years ago, and after leaving that, I can't remember how many years, maybe 10 years. So yeah, 10 years later, actually, I got remarried, happily married for over a decade. But then, even though I went into work doing things that I liked, facilitating, mediation, those sort of things, I got sick and I had cancer, went through the treatment, and when I came out of that, I realized, listen, tomorrow is promised to nobody. What do I want to do? Even if I didn't get paid and I know I only have 2 weeks to live, what would I be doing? I know what I'll be doing, yapping. I love to talk. What you want to tell? Yes. So I started thinking, you like talking over, and a lot of people call asking you for advice when it comes to relationship, marriage, business, and I thought, okay, how could I offer this as a package? I went and spent money getting training and took it from there. So by the time more babies came along, because between 15 years and then a 2-year-old and 1-year-old, there's a big gap. But I didn't mind having the children and doing the business because I love being a mom and I love being able to do my business from home. So there's not a big split between them. It all was his, yeah, swim together upstream.
So you're kind of like a mompreneur, is it? It's a mompreneur.
Oh yeah, mompreneur, like the Kardashians call it. Yeah,
So you,
I am. Yes.
But is it easy though? I mean, you make it sound a bit easy, or is it hard, or is it, how is it?
Oh, practical. Well, good days and bad days. So yeah, or no, I should say good mornings and good evenings. Yeah, some bad ones. But because the children are accustomed to seeing me on the computer and stuff, it makes it easier for them to understand what mommy is doing. However, I don't push that so much that I don't spend time with them. So that's why I said it's kind of all, everybody swimming upstream. Everybody is salmon in my house. So the business is, we're moving forward, and I'm helping to grow and groom my children in the way that I want. Because, for example, I know a lot of people decide to take their children to nursery from early o'clock. I don't believe that, well, for me, I don't like that. I want to be able to instill in them some values and things that I want them to know. So sometimes when you have to meet deadlines, it's hard, and that's where having a really loving and helpful husband comes in, and the 15-year-old free babysitting, who could ask for anything more. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's very, very, very interesting. I mean, the kind of moving on from what you're saying, and moving actually over to Ida, who actually owns 2 nurseries, Ida. Yeah, two nurseries, and getting the perspective of someone who owns the nurseries. How does that work, and why did you do it in terms, why did you actually start it? Because here's Nova just saying, actually I wouldn't send my children to nurseries because I want to teach a certain values.
Was that why? Out in the park. You're ruining my business.
I mean, that's what I did then.
I should clarify. So at least until she, like, they turn around age 3. Okay. That way, that's my disclaimer.
Can we swap, because I didn't put mine in nursery either. I worked in nursery, but I wanted to be with them. And so for me, it was like, I'm not paying someone to look after my child. You know what?
Exactly.
Whatever bills there are, there will always be a bill. My children will always be small. So I stayed home. So did you put yours in nursery? Maybe we should swap seats because.
Okay, so we have the non-sport children.
Back again. I have nothing to contribute.
No. But I intend to put them in nursery. Don't get me wrong. The 15-year-old did go to nursery, but from age 2.5. But this time
Let me tell everybody the benefits of coming to
No, but let us know, because I imagine, because we've known you for quite a while, and we know that you're a woman of strong values, and I imagine in your nursery you have set values that you actually teach your children. So what is it anyway that made you start a nursery?
I am, as I said before, a qualified midwife, and I've been a midwife for the past over 25 years, and I'm still practicing, still deliver babies. But it came to a point when I was working at Guy's Hospital, and the unit was going to be moved to St. Thomas's Hospital. So I had a choice then, which was really to put my family first, or to continue in my position then as a manager in a health promotion department. And I thought, no, my children will come first, definitely. So between discussions with my husband, we decided, no, stay at home for a while, relax, decide carefully what you want to do next. Because where we were living compared to where I had to travel to St. Thomas's was quite a journey. So I thought, fine, I stopped working altogether. I was given a very tiny redundancy because obviously they were abolishing my position whilst moving to St. Thomas's. And I looked at the money and I wondered, what do I do with it? And I thought, okay, I had been running prenatal, antenatal, and postnatal classes and other variety of health promotion information for the staff and for the prospective parents as well for quite a while. And I thought up until then I had really built up quite a huge group of followers from our parents whilst doing the antenatal and postnatal classes. I remember even going as far as to become to train as a what do you call it now? Gosh, aerobic teacher to really maximize. So if you want to,
use a baby as a weight.
Exactly, yeah. And the classes were absolutely fabulous. We used to have up to 100 parents in the classroom, but we had no space at all. So from those parents who were there, once guys was going to be removed, it was more like, what are we going to do now? We're not going to have you anymore. And then it came from the parents, why don't you open a nursery? We'll come and follow you.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, well, that never really occurred in my head. But I knew up until then, I had taught my own children to read from the age of 2. It was something I watched and I read, and I thought, well, I'll try it. And it worked wonderfully. And I thought, fine, I can open a small play group. Some of my parents might want to follow me once I'm established, and we can go from there. So I did stay at home for about 6 months, and I realized it really wasn't for me. I am so energetic to come from being an aerobic teacher, midwife, to sit at home. It was just not going to work at all for me. So I went and found a small premises to open a play group. But within 6 months, it wasn't quite ideal, and I moved to another one. But what I really wanted was to share with the parents out there what I did for my children, to see if they can also follow the same kind of model and still be able to work as a part-time midwife as well as a nursery worker. And that has worked for me very well so far. So I'm more like combining nurturing these parents from preconceptual care to antenatal care to delivering them, and then inviting them come see me.
So that's because you didn't deliver my baby, that's why.
That's why.
Yeah, that's the strategy.
Who's trying to recover?
And you're going with bad books.
I'm just going to spend the whole program trying to recover. I think we should leave it as that now. Then that's really interesting actually. So your sons are now 23, how old are they, 25?
I have a 28, 25 and 18 who's just gone to university.
Right, so...
but they saw me throughout the struggles of trying to establish a business and to really get there. As I said before, I wasn't really looking for a business. It was like, what can I do with my time? So I wanted hours that would suit me to drop my children at school and collect them. I would just work in between and actually still collect them home and oversee their homework and take it from there. And it was wonderful until the business took over. It became much more serious because parents were asking for more hours in the nursery. So starting from a small play group, I progressed to a preschool hours, and then into a full day nursery. And that's why it became a little bit challenging. And I think I remember getting to a point where my eldest son was saying, Mom, stop this, it's too much. Because of the working hours, you're working at the nursery until the nursery is closed, but you take all the homework home. So you oversee to the children's homework and so forth, and then when everybody's gone to bed, that's when my part 3 work starts. The paperwork and the preparation and so forth. And I have to say, probably just like you, Nova, I'm very lucky. I had a husband who just realized my passion was going that way. So let's just leave her alone and get on with it. So I was able to really fulfill my passion, and I'm still with it. So I feel very blessed.
Fabulous. And how did you manage to raise the 3 boys and do all of those things that you said?
Superhero, that's it.
Superwoman over here.
Going back to my own upbringing, I had a mom who was very much of a disciplinarian in the house. I was reading at an early age before I even began school, and I think my husband and I both share same kind of values, that education is so much more important than anything else. So we really heavily invested in education for our children. So from the age of, I would say, 1, we began with the right kind of encouragement and stimulation for the child before they even began talking. When I used to drive around with my eldest son then, I wasn't listening to the radio or the music. It was all nursery rhymes and storybooks. Back then we had cassettes. So it was cassettes of, I don't know, Gulliver's Travel and so forth. And it was just nursery rhymes. And I was just passionate about that. It was just my children, my sons. To the point that I realized, yes, I can really grow this and take it further because I'm so much into it. I didn't at any point take my eyes off my children's education. That to me was so important. So where they had very good education, very expensive. I was still a tutor at home. They would do their schoolwork, then they would do my homework. I'm sorry to say to other parents out there who probably say, what are you talking about?
Tiger mummy over here.
Yeah.
But it's
So
good. Yeah.
every half term, there was a question. Did you want to do your homework, my homework, me, mom's homework first, or you want to play? Because you had two things, math and English, and that was my passion. And they would choose, oh no, we'll do everything in the morning, and then we can play in the afternoon. So little things that maybe tiny comprehensions, maths. At the age of 4, my eldest one was doing his times table, 12 times 12, mental arithmetic. All that came into play, because I think, well, you can do that in 5 minutes and you can go and play. So I'm not having your playtime, but I'm equipping you with
Yes.
basics, which will
Yeah.
become very useful when you start school properly.
Yes.
So some people might say, oh, well, you were pressuring the children. So what's been the benefit then? Are they pressured, like their lives completely ruined now by
They
all
are
that?
so
Just wondering.
There's
what-
no
like
damage.
I like to see the. I know. I like to
whatsoever.
see the outcome. What's the outcome from all
You're
this?
going to take
Yeah.
tips. She's taking tips. Sorry, kids.
Exactly, it's true. Let me write this down. Go,
No, it's been absolutely beneficial. And I discussed with the eldest one day, he became more like a father to our youngest one, telling him exactly what I used to kind of guide him with when it came to education. They are not damaged at all. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed their schoolwork. I had never had any problems with their homework because it was routine and it was consistent. There were no gaps in between. I didn't say, oh, sorry, today no homework because I'm going to the hairdresser and have my nails done. No, they came first. Sorry. They came first and then mom came afterwards. So in our house, they never saw anything different. And that was just the way up until the last one left our house to go to university. There's nothing that changed, and I think maybe that is a key thing, is to be consistent with all of them, not just today, homework time, I'm overseeing your homework, then tomorrow on, you can go and watch TV. No, we had a routine from the word go. You come back from school, you have your little drink and snack, and then it's homework time, so no TV, nothing whatsoever, no radio, and then when homework is over, then we can decide what test we want to do. And the same thing came even half terms. But that was a commitment that their dad and I made from the word go.
Yes.
Yeah.
and what do they do now?
Well, they both, the two eldest ones, they were in a very expensive school. They left primary school with 2 scholarships each. We actually had finished the year 5 syllabus before they came to year 6. No, year 6 syllabus before they went to year 6, because of the amount of work that we were doing together. And they didn't think that they were doing anything much. It was just 5 minutes, this is done, we can go and play. They went to university, they went to secondary school and were able to do several of the GCSEs a year early, which was fantastic. And both went to university, the 2 older ones. Both of them are working in IT companies, doing very well, I'm proud to say.
Wonderful.
And the youngest one has his goals planned already, which I was quite surprised actually, before he even went to university, that he wants to do 1 year. He's doing maths and computer science. Very good in sciences, I must say. He wants to do 1 year in university and then go to work for IBM and then come back and do his other, I think it's 3 years or so, and then hopefully move to Japan. And I'm saying, but why so far? He said, because that's where all the technology comes from.
Okay.
So now I'm being educated actually,
Okay.
which is fantastic.
Okay, so Japan wasn't your idea then?
Nothing to do with me, it came as a shock.
Okay.
Seriously.
Okay, no, it's interesting. So we're kind of like doing the boys round here now. But you also have 2 boys, so how did you manage? And in your situation, obviously you raised them by yourself. So how did you do that? Because obviously sometimes it can be like, well, I meet mothers, even people who are married, but they're just, or even as a mother who's married, there's just so much to do in a day. So how do you raise your children well, plus do all the different business things you do, and start off by telling us about the business stuff you do and how you manage to fit it all in.
I don't know.
And
That's it. I don't know how I got through it. I don't know how I I just don't know. By God's grace is what I would say. But when my children were younger, I didn't have the business that I have now. It was very, very different because I was not educated in the way I am now. So a lot of it was going down the traditional routes of, doing things with them after school and so forth. So when they were actually younger and at home, people enjoyed my cupcakes. And so it was, whilst being at home, it was like, okay. So it started as a little baking business, just doing that. So, and they would help me as long as, eating as they go along, but it was all part of it. But that for me was, it wasn't regular, but it was a source of having something coming in more so than what was coming in. So in that way, I wasn't business minded, just that people enjoyed them and they would, but it wasn't like me charging them. It was kind of, what do you do? And I was like, yeah, and then push something in your hand. So I was like, oh, thank you very much. That's more than what I had before. And, quickly in the pocket, which 9 times out of 10, before the end of the day, I'd spent it on the boys anyway. So it wasn't a case of, I did not think business, very traditional, get up, go to work, come home. I stayed home until my eldest started school, and then the youngest went to day nursery. But he was only there during the school hours, so it was drop off, go to work, pick up, and home in the evening with them, and the various activities there, and the homeworks and the after school, various school clubs to do with learning maths and education. So I did that. It was only when they got older, and then being fed up with the going to work. The job that I did was great in the location where it was, because it was smack bang between home and school, and I enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed that. So I didn't actually think anything in terms of business and having my own income. It was when the organisation then decided to change locations that I thought, okay, I don't really want to have to travel that far. That's not what I signed up for. And then after trying the journey for a while, I thought, no, did not sign up for this. I applied for voluntary redundancy. Finally, after a few tries, I finally got it. And so when I then took that time out, and I was able then to put some of the redundancy aside and then use some of it as an income. And I stayed home for a period of time and really rethought what I did want to do and how I was going forward. Then I looked at terms of, okay, pension, what pension? And you look at the calculating things, well, do I really want things to be like this all the time? I thought, well, actually, no. And that's when I started the journey of re-educating myself and looking at things from a different perspective and saying, well, actually, I don't want my boys to go through the struggles that I did, and the stereotypical things that I was told would happen. And I thought, well, no, I can do better. And I want them to see that, yeah, you work hard and you make the sacrifices. In the end, it will. So, whilst prior to that, round about the same time, I also went back to did Open University. Because I didn't go to university myself, but I did Open University because it was kind of like building myself up. So it was a long journey in that perspective. I've always loved property, and so did the training and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like in the last 4 or 5 years that I've spent, I think, a small deposit on a house in the training,
really,
and the books and the seminars and the webinars and going to bed and waking up at 1, 2 or 3 in the morning because of the time difference of where the webinar is going to be, hooking into the live events, taking notes, eyes burning. It's like, I need to do this, and then can I read this later on, and then getting up and going to work. Looking back now, I'm thinking, how on earth did I manage that? But when you're excited about something, when you're passionate about something, sleep doesn't actually come into it. Whereas before, I would sleep. I will sleep when I'm dead. So it was a case of, it was the case of, well, actually, do you know what? I would stay in bed for as long and as late as possible, hit the shower, do the periodic thank you Lord, quick thing, and rush out the door and go to work and do something. Whilst I enjoyed the job itself, I didn't enjoy being there, and it wasn't what I wanted to do. There were talents that I had that came naturally in terms of organisation and that sort of stuff, and running an office. That wasn't a problem, but it wasn't my passion. When I then tapped into my passion, 2-3 hours sleep a night for 2-3 weeks wasn't an issue. I didn't think. It's only when I thought, why am I so tired? Why my mind gone blank and I can't? What was I thinking? And actually, you know what? It's sleep deprivation. And I remember when the kids were being small. Yeah, you're not thinking. And it reminded me of when the children were very small, where you would get up at all hours of the night and then still try to function during the day. And then I thought, this is sleep deprivation. But it didn't matter because the passion was there. It's what I really, really wanted to do. And so if I didn't go, so I would go to work, and if I didn't go to sleep, it didn't matter.
So how did you discover this passion then? Because you're a mother, you're raising these 2 boys by yourself.
It was always there.
Did it just
No, it was always there, but where I didn't know how to tap into it, I didn't understand the process of why is this thing in me for property? I've always had it. And even when I bought the place that I'm in now, the idea was, you know, after a period of time, you either move on or you use the equity from it and you have other. So it was always there, but the opportunity wasn't, and the finances wasn't, and the circumstances wasn't conducive to what I wanted. So it was, my focus was then not on myself and what I wanted, it was making sure my boys are okay. If they're okay, then I'm okay. And so when they reached a point where actually, you know what, I've done all I can and I've instilled in them all I can, it's now for them to take their path. I can now, it was kind of reignited.
But was there that feeling that, oh, I'm doing a lot for the boys, or I should go and learn this, or I raised some money? What was it that made you take that step?
Hating with a passion the job I was doing.
Okay.
Having little and no respect for the management.
Okay.
And then deciding I cannot allow them and what they're doing or not to impact me, where I'm coming home and I'm an ogre. You know, it's like, you know, because the boys would come and they'd be like, and I'm in a bad mood. It's not their fault. It's like, oh, you know, it's kind of like, oh no, mum's home. But whilst, you know, it's kind of like my attitude to work, whilst professional, whilst I'm there, the internal turmoil, and then it was affecting my character. Because then you start getting snappy and you know, dog-like, you know, female fashion. So it's, you kind of think, no, this isn't me. This is not what I signed up for. I'm not enjoying this. I can take control. I have to take control of me and my actions and what I do. And so whilst you will always have a bill, I thought, you know what, I won't always have my health, because seeing what Nova was going through, I'd had my health issues, but not to the point of Nova. I thought, you know what, why am I doing this? You're born, you go to school, you go to work, you die. You may or may not collect a pension along the way, but then the cost of a pension, you know, I was looking at the economy. I remember when bread was 25p. Yes, I'm showing my age, but you know, sun-blessed bread. Remember sun-blessed bread?
I can't never remember that.
But now you go,
showing your age,
and you only had
the credit card.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like, well, you know, you only had like 1 or 2. Now it's sort of like, oh my goodness, seeded, non-seeded, and
So much
you know,
variety.
pumpernickel, and it's still that times have changed, and the cost of bread has increased a lot. And I'm thinking, well, there's no such thing as a job for life anymore. Very few organisations have final salary pensions, and if they do, they've probably lost it, because the employers get to a certain age, the employees get to a certain, and the employer then tries to get rid of them in some legalistic way. And I thought, you know what? I'm not guaranteed a pension, so let me make sure I have my own. I cannot rely on the government. They can't rely on themselves. And you saw, you know, what we knew was kind of going on. It then became public. You think, you can't really trust anybody. So let me make sure I've got enough for myself by legal, moral and ethical means.
You didn't mention the age of your children.
19 and 18. So they're 19 months between them. So at the moment, being November, the eldest is 19, and the youngest is 18.
Okay, and they're also in enterprise.
Yeah,
was
doing their own
that
thing.
a pressure from you being a
Yes,
working mother to
most definitely.
get into enterprise?
It's drumming in them from I don't know how old, because I've taught them how to wash, cook, clean. They know it. They'll be very good husbands in the practical sense. Advert for them both in the practical sense. Whether they want to do it or not, I don't know. One is more willing than the other, but they do know how to do it, and they do know how to shop and to budget, etc., etc. But I made them realize from a very young age, I will not always be around. Therefore, you cannot rely on me to always be giving you money. I will not always be around, therefore you cannot rely on me to always have a roof over your head. You have to leave at some point. I want the house for myself. I want to tidy up, leave things as they are, and come back and find it as it is. If it's a mess, it's my mess. If I want to leave my shoe, one over here and one over there, fine.
If I don't want to cook.
If I don't want to cook, fine. I mean, when they're both out, I've had crunchy nut cornflakes with ice cream for dinner.
Oh,
Loved
lovely.
it. I recommend it. I recommend it.
right.
Yeah, the raspberry ripple with crunchy nut cornflakes.
I like that. I think I'll give it to my husband. Raspberry.
I'm not quite sure if it worked for the husbands, but if he's easygoing, fine. I'm sure he wants something more substantial. But that's me. I think I don't feel like cooking. So for me, it was instilling in them that you cannot rely on anyone.
Okay.
You can't rely on anyone but yourself. Sometimes we let ourselves down. We rely on ourselves to do something, but it's helping them to understand. My job as a mother is to prepare you and to develop you and to function you to go out into the world and make a legacy for yourself. Have a positive legacy. You know, the stereotypical of, you know, inner city London, etc., etc. Not all teenagers are in gangs. Not all of them rob, steal, whatever. That's not the case. If you make a positive environment for them, they'll want to be at home. The sad thing is that kids join gangs because they're looking for that home. They're looking for that love and that security, that family. And so when they join gangs, they're getting what's missing at home. Sorry for those of you who have the loving homes and they go into gangs. I'm not saying that that's the case, but there's something missing. Sometimes it's missing inside them as a person, and they just don't know where to go.
And I think the consistency, the loving has to be consistent.
Yes.
Yeah, if there are gaps in between, then they find this ample time to divert themselves into other things which can get them into trouble.
You know,
And also
so,
knowing the company they keep as well.
Yeah, understanding that. And you know, I mean, some people say, you know, it's that person's child. I'm not that like that. I cannot swear for my children when they're not in my presence. Whilst I instill things in them in the home, I cannot swear that when they're out there with their friends, they will not do something that would embarrass me. And so I'm realistic in that, okay, if you have done something, if you wouldn't be embarrassed for it to be splashed across the side of a bus as an advert, go ahead, that's fine, and do it. But if you are going to be embarrassed about it, then think twice before you do it. And so it's being realistic. Your child is no angel. They're only an angel to you, and even then sometimes you want to give them a backhand. But then, you know, it's being honest and being realistic. Yes, they're yours, and yes, they're precious and they're wonderful, and, you know, sugar and spices, but they can be real little challengers at times. And you have to be honest that your kids are not perfect.
Okay, but do you think that raising them up to be so successful, so tell us what they do in terms of enterprise now, do you think that raising them up, the fact that you were there and around them helped to get them to where they are today?
Yes and no. I think they need to have their own sense of, this is what I want to do.
And what do they do?
And I wouldn't take credit for everything. My eldest, at the moment, he's written a book. Check it out, Anderson Eye, The Strange Case of Anthrax. Sorry if I've got the title wrong, Sam. Sorry.
It's not the promotion time.
But
It's on
the so he's written other things before, but this one is actually got the attention of Amazon. So it's now an ebook on Amazon. He's done it. He's always loved writing. He's always loved literature. And I've encouraged that as much as I can, and kind of like letting them to do things. So one of the things I was like doing is that, okay, you like playing these games, you enjoy that, rather than that is stupidness and pull into and go and read a book. All right, what is it about that you enjoy doing? Okay, write something about it. And and get them, use it to your advantage and to their advantage. And so he writes blogs now, and so he does gaming, and I cannot pronounce the order, it begins with a K, Kai Kachi, but no, I won't even, he keeps telling me what it is and I just cannot pronounce it, but he
He's
writes.
not going to be impressed when he
No,
watches
he
it.
won't, I'm really sorry, son. But he plays the games and then writes about it, and he and a friend, so he does that and does reviews, and so he's using his talent and he's using his abilities and his passion, and he's making money from it. Don't know how much, so that's not my business, but it's kind of like I know he's having an income, so it keeps him off the streets, and it's kids always need money. And I always taught them also that you don't have to have the designer. It's okay to be different.
Yeah.
And you are special and unique anyway as you are. If you want the designer, fine. Not out of my purse. So that's where they are, you know. So they're doing a lot in terms of what they're doing. And it's, all I said to them is, so long as it's right, ethically, morally, and legal, go ahead. Fine. Do it. I'm behind you all the way. And honey, mine. For all the years I'm not having anything. It's like, what's like, and it's mine.
Now that is absolutely brilliant. So
I'm
we're
very
hearing,
proud of them.
yeah, no, it's absolutely brilliant. So we're hearing lots of different stories. I mean, for me, I started up a social business. I, like yourself, Ida, when I started out, it was just something on my heart. I'd been teaching for quite a few years, had been really successful. But I felt that, distressed at the fact that only 35% of children African and Caribbean heritage weren't achieving. But yet I could see these children, they're coming in really bright. And in fact, in the classroom, they were doing well, but there were little things that just weren't getting through. For example, we'd have revision session, free revision session, and everybody else would be there and they'd be outside on the bench just relaxing. And I mean, these are, just chilling. And these are bright children who could get the grades. And then I was looking and I was seeing that actually, it wasn't just to do with the teacher. It wasn't even just to do with the parents, because all these children's parents actually cared. It was just the disconnect and the information wasn't getting there. So then when I left, I went to work with Hackney Social Services, and I developed a project to help African and Caribbean children. And I'd taken it to my boss, and she was like, it's okay. And then she said, oh, we'll develop it ourselves. And I was just a bit sad because I thought it was such a good project. And then in the end, nothing was happening. So that's when I'd left to go work in the education department in Hackney Social Services. And so I thought, I took the project to my pastor and I said, can we run this as a small group? And we're looking at the ideas. And he actually one day, because he's a very busy man, took a look at the project. And he's like, you don't understand how the magnitude of this project. And I was like, okay. And he goes, we'll actually fund it. So you go and do it in schools. There's no strings attached, no religious strings. We're a black majority church, we're quite wealthy, we just want to help inner city students. So I went and I started it in schools, and then I've really never looked back since. I mean, that was in 2001, 13 years ago. And for the mothers out there, sometimes you have a passion, you're not necessarily going to immediately start it. Like it took me about 3 years to get into, to actually practically do it, because I wanted to make sure it was perfect. I'm a bit like that, don't deliver, I just keep planning and planning and planning. And once we started, it just really, really, did well. And it wasn't difficult because I loved it. I guess for me, I never really started it, maybe like I didn't start it as a business, I started it as a project. That was the only downside. So because I started as a project and it was very social, a lot of it was very voluntary, and I wasn't ever looking for any money. I just wanted to help the children, which can be really great, and I'm happy for that, because I did it out of passion, out of seeing a problem, but then it was like a bit of a financial burden on my family, because I was always then depending on my husband's income. And so that's why, I would say to wives now, if there's a social project that you want to do, from what I now learned, like yourself, going on courses, having an amazing mentor who believes that you can turn your passion into profit, is actually realizing you can set up something social, because all of what we are doing is social. It is about impacting people, having social business, but you can also ensure that your family don't suffer as a result of what you're doing. So, I would encourage mothers who've got something, I meet mothers sometimes and they say, I've got a project for girls, I want to do a project for girls. you can look at the resources you have, start creating resources, start selling those resources. It doesn't have to be because it's social and it's passion, that means you're going to have to suffer and you know, it's all going to be sacrifices. So I love what I do with ACEs. That's the project that I started up. I go to schools all over London, and you know, the boys, my husband and I, we very much realise the importance of enterprise. And I think more mothers should get into enterprise, like I said, and train our children, because I think that's what's going to make the difference in terms of employment. You know, today when we were doing the session, I showed that over 50% of black children are actually unemployed. You know, even having left university, and why not get into enterprise? You know, why? That's something I think they should teach at schools. I mean, so some of the other, I love creating projects. That's what I do. I love developing projects. I like creating projects. I like helping organizations who have youth projects to put it together. I love getting the concepts and putting it together and putting it to something that's structured that can work. I do that for different cultures as well. I have one of the projects that I run is for all inner city students. My kind of aim is just to break that cycle of underachievement and that cycle of failure. It doesn't have to happen because your mum did it, or because of the school you go to, or because of the postcode. It's not really like that. A lot of it are these key values that if every child is taught these key values, they'll actually be successful. So that's what I do in terms of my business, and I love it. I love talking to parents now. We do a lot more parenting workshops and talking to families, and yeah, it's fun. And it's like these ladies here, I decided to kind of, we do have an office and we do stuff home based, but because I'm for the enterprise and stuff that I do, I can work around the children. And that's lovely. So we can do the drop-offs and we can do the pickups, and I can help them with the homework, and you know. So that's I recommend enterprise all the time. So in terms of top tips for parents, if you want to start your own business, what would be your top tip or top 3 tips you would say?
I would say make sure that you get yourself a mentor. There are a lot of people who they've done what you want to do. Don't look for somebody who is just a step ahead of you and just settle with training from them. Get somebody who in 5 years time, or maybe let's say 1 year, but 5 years time is more realistic, you would like to get there, because they could show you shortcuts to get there. You must be determined that no matter what comes, if this is what you want to do, you're willing to make some sacrifices, but also to put in the work that is necessary to see things through to the end. And not every day would be a happy, fun and exciting day. And as I said, it wasn't exciting sometimes when you're breastfeeding and the other boss wants to squat and you're trying to type. Yeah, sorry.
You didn't really just say that.
But this is, I'm telling you from having a baby. You understand? I started before I gave birth, continued while she was young, but making sure that she wasn't deprived. But when I had deadlines to do, as Charmaine was saying before, I was so excited about what I was doing that when I had the chance to type. In fact, when I gave birth to my last child, the birth itself was very traumatic. So I couldn't walk for about a month. So I was sitting doing that and using the computer. I can't go anywhere anyhow. You understand? But because I was determined, I was able to push and see that through. And also, if you have, like how we have peers as well, so each other to kind of count on and help push and encourage each other. Go on, what are you doing next week? Let's work on, you work on your bit, I'll work on mine, and then we could kind of hold each other accountable. That's top tip number 3.
And you know what, that's quite interesting, because I remember one of the roles that I had, which was training young people up to 25 back into employment. And I remember it was the time I was pregnant with my first child, and I thought, yippee, I'm just going to, I know my husband wasn't going to agree, but I thought, okay, I can convince him that I'll be a stay-at-home mum. And that was my idea. I thought, okay, I'll stay at home, invest my time in this child. And I remember my boss at the time, a European lady, she was like, look at the ladies around you in this in this center who are trying to find jobs now, but because they've taken out that time looking after their children and not having one hand in business or doing other things, volunteering or anything like that, it is so difficult for them to find jobs now.
They've lost their identity.
Yeah, they've lost their identity, and you could see in terms of their self-esteem as well. And she's like, look,
this is all I can do.
And they're like on benefits, and people are looking at them as scroungers, but no one will give them a job because they don't. The massive gap is just there. And she said, whatever you do, don't just come out of employment or stop doing business. And I think that was one of the best advice I was given. And then I was realised that you can do both. It doesn't have to be either or either. You just have to balance yourself and make that decision that this is going to be family time, this is going to be business time, or this is how I'm going to operate, and how are you going to organise yourself.
And that requires discipline.
Yes.
You have to be self-disciplined.
But how about yourselves? What would be the best advice?
Don't give up. You have to have a belief in yourself, but you also have to challenge the beliefs that you have. It was only when I think it was 24 hours at the beginning of the year
24 hours of motivation,
with Les Brown and Shay and Trev, and so I stayed awake for 24 hours, and it wasn't an issue because I thought, well, when I was partying and doing whatever,
for 24 hours.
Why did you stay awake for 24 hours?
Because listening to motivational stuff. And getting that passion and that drive.
If you went to sleep, you would lose.
It was live. But it
was January 1st, and it was 24 hours, one speaker after another coming. But it was so good, and it was so empowering that, in fact, for all the people that we told, it was just both of us that stayed for the whole 24 hours. In terms of the people we know, but look at us now.
Because out of that, I think we then started a network marketing thing, which it's fizzled out. However, out of that,
we started
masterminding stuff together, and then I went on a course to do with property to learn how to do it properly, so that it's a win-win situation for myself and those who may rent from me, to help those who may want to get on the property ladder. And then out of that, going to another organisation, further training, who then came out of, what is your lifestyle goal? So understanding, well, when people come to me, what are the questions they're talking about? Really, how did you manage with your boys on your own to not be homeless, for your children not to be taken into care, for them not to be wild and in gang, etc.? How did you manage? And it was finance. And so I actually realised and thought, what did I do? How did I manage? And sitting down and actually rethinking, it's like, wow. And I'd had different mentors to do one with my own mentality, my own characteristics, and looking at me as a person. And I've had different mentors for different stages of my development and self-development. And so out of that now, I have another mentor who was then able to say, well, this is how you make money on the side. Because once you've made your thousands or your millions or how much you want, what do you do with your time? And so this is what I do with my time, helping parents to help their children to be financially educated, to be alert. I'm not a financial advisor. I can coach you along to look at the things, to say, do what's different to what's out there, in terms of you can go online and look at things, but I will come alongside you and say, look, this is what I did, these are the practical steps, and the different things that I've learned, the various books that I've read, and putting those things into practice. And out of that, learning again from the same organisation to trade Forex, because that's something that you can do once a day, again discipline, because you're doing it at the same time over a period of, I'm not going to say go out and just do it, but get educated, try the demo, make sure it is for you, but it's primarily, I would say, get the discipline, be disciplined. Definitely get educated and re-educate yourself, because some of the things and the concepts that we have and our mindsets are things that are instilled in us, and when you have to question yourself. Be prepared to look at yourself and say, well, actually, I don't know why I do that, I don't know why I believe that. And so looking at yourself and then being prepared to change, and definitely get a coach, get a mentor, get somebody who's doing what you want to do, or has the experience of doing those things that you want to do, that can say to you first-hand knowledge, this is what it is. Subscribe to things, go to networking meetings, meet other people, because when you're with like-minded people, Bible tells us, you know, iron sharpens iron, and so you know, having this mothers group, it's a boost.
Definitely.
So that's all. Yeah. So sometimes you have to change your environment to other people to push you and sharpen you. And you definitely overcome.
And it doesn't mean you're leaving your friends behind.
No.
You're just needing people who can take you further.
Yes, definitely. Some friends you need to drop. Don't even tell them where you're going. Just you know what?
Like a
how does it? You know, you're talking to them, and how does it capsize? You know, there's some people who are hangers on. There are some people who will. They'll want you to succeed, but not, so that they can
say the same plateau.
Because they're not comfortable with you moving on.
Yes.
I mean, there are some that you will say, yeah, come, let's go. I mean, no one was one that said, come, let's go. And people that I said, come, let's go, they're like, oh, well, I don't know. And I think they're waiting for me. And then they will follow on.
In case you fail.
In case you fail, then they'll be like, oh, and yes, I have tried some other things and failed, and I'm sorry for those who came along with me and believed in me. But it's just trying.
It was a learning process.
Nothing gained.
Exactly.
And I think it's Google or one of these companies said that they're always happy for the people who join them later, because every year they know they get better. And I think it's difficult when you're not an entrepreneur, isn't it? Or you have friends who are not entrepreneurs, and when you fail, they just. And you come up with another idea, and they just think,
why not?
There she goes again.
But then you haven't learned from it, or you haven't gone out and got the education. In which case, people then say, oh, not again. So if you keep going down the same road or falling down a hole, and you go and fall down the same hole, come on, either change the road or change your route and see where the hole is. And I think that's the.
So what are your kind of top tips then?
I think similar to what Charmaine said and what Sanova said as well yourself, discipline to me is the most important thing. It's so easy to give up halfway because you feel the demands of the house and the family are so much. And also, if the family is not encouraging you as well, you feel, well, I'm the odd one out in this house who's trying to pursue this particular route. Then it's very easy to give up. So to me, if you're self-disciplined, that then helps your mindset to also go in the same direction with you. Otherwise, it's not just the body going that way. The mind is also changing as you go along. And determination. Then I'm putting my goalposts over there. This is my vision board. I'm going to get there. It might take me longer. It might take me quicker, but I'll get there. And I think that's what I've been doing. Because unlike Charmaine, I never had mentors until probably 3 years ago, when I met our common mentor. I was just pursuing my goals in darkness. If I hear something, let me try that, let me look at that. But for me, I'm lucky in the sense, yes, I had my sampling blocks, but I have succeeded. But having an expert in a field that I wanted to go into, that helped a lot. That helped me to move faster, to take a big leap. Where I was, let's say 3 years ago, is not where I am now. So yes.
There has to be an element of risk taking then.
Yes, as an entrepreneur, you see, how should I put it? You see future prospects, or you see opportunities, and you don't worry about the loss in your venture because you want to get further. So you have to have that kind of an attitude.
You have to have a learning attitude.
That is really great, and I think this is where I do my bit of plugging actually. I'm going to be publishing a Kindle book by the end of the month, and it's around using your passion to impact the world, and also making an income from it as well. So I'll put up further information about that, and I'll let you guys know so you can buy the book. They'll be like, what? Where did you do? You know what? Thank you very much for joining us. Anybody want to say anything before we go?
I would say one thing that we all have in common that we see as important is our faith as well.
Yes, definitely.
And I know for each one of us, just having the faith to believe that you could do all things through Christ who strengthens you is so important to us. And I would encourage people to have that sort of spiritual grounding as well. It's something to hold on to when times get rough.
And the friends forsake you and leave you.
They weren't friends in the first place. Thought they were acquainted.
Friends never leave you.
Exactly.
No, but in fairness, there are family members that might not even understand, and it's lonely, isn't it? Leadership and being at the top or moving up is lonely, and plus the pressures of the children and stuff. So no, you're right. I think that we do have in common, and that's lovely. That you know, that belief and knowledge that God is there for us and wants us to do the best that we can with the skills that He's given us, especially to help people in society.
Yeah.
You know, and be in a position as well to give financially to other people.
Because my experience wouldn't have brought me to where I am. So at the time it wasn't very pleasant, but now I'm able to look back and say, actually somebody else may be going through and I could help them.
Yes.
Exactly.
So,
Back in the community.
Whilst we're going through, we can say, oh, woe is me, I am under, but it's actually, no, it's for a reason.
Yes.
So we're going through, it's
That's
just
the book of
passing
passion as
through.
well.
It's you're passing through.
And one thing I know about this parent table talk is that we can go on forever
Yes.
and ever and ever.
So we have been talking. There's no
but I actually have to go. I should have done an hour and a half ago.
All right, so Charmaine has to go.
I have to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dawn.
Thank you. We're really grateful for the time and the platform and
Yeah, it was
thank
fun.
you.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nah.
Thank you, cameraman.
Thank you, cameraman.